Picture this for a second. It's early 2026. You are walking through one of those hyper-modern, air-conditioned malls, the type sleek, shiny, essentially a giant concrete box. A very comfortable one, though. And Chinese New Year is just around the corner, so the whole place is just decked out. Vibrant red lanterns everywhere, fake cherry blossoms, giant gold ingots, the works.
It's a very specific vibe. You can almost hear that festive music just describing it, the clashing cymbals and everything.
Exactly. Total sensory overload. So you turn a corner expecting, I don't know, another high-end fashion store or a bubble tea place, and instead you walk smack into a kadai runset.
And for anyone listening who might not know the term, a kadai runset is it's a traditional old-school village grocery store.
Yeah.
We're talking wooden shelves, big tins of biscuits, maybe some rattan furniture, snacks hanging in little plastic packets, that whole rustic aesthetic.
Right. But here's the kicker. It's fake. It's a display. It's a temporary decoration stuck inside this massive urban complex. And it's that exact moment, that visual whiplash of seeing a mock-up of a village store inside a city mall, that triggers the whole conversation we're having today.
It is a striking image when you really think about it. It's a symbol of a past life being used as set dressing for the lifestyle that effectively killed it.
Oof. That's a heavy way to start, but that is exactly what we're unpacking. Today, we are doing a deep dive into a really thoughtful piece from qianmeng.org, written by Ang. It just came out today, February 1st, 2026.
And the post is called Notes on Photography, Part 227, Bridging the Urban-Rural Childhood Divide.
Yeah, and what I love about this is the author, he calls himself an old software plumber.
Right, he's a tech guy.
Yeah.
So when he goes on this photo walk, he's not just looking at, pretty nostalgia or good composition. He's analyzing society like it's a system. He sees this display, and it just launches him into this pretty profound sociological analysis. He's comparing two completely different operating systems for raising human beings.
Well,
The urban OS and the rural OS.
operating systems for raising humans. I like that. I really like that framing. And the mission for this deep dive is to sort of figure out which OS is actually better, or at least what the trade-offs are. We're going to look at the enrichment trap.
Which is huge.
Huge for anyone with kids right now, and the loss of cultural roots, and then the really big question at the end, is technology, specifically AI and remote work, actually going to send us all back to the village?
It sounds counterintuitive, but the logic holds up. It really does.
But before we get to the future, we have to look at the spark. You mentioned the mall display.
Right. So the author says he was on a photo walk in a new neighborhood. And talk about serendipity. He was only there because an event he was meant to go to got postponed. Last-minute venue change.
So he just had this found time.
Exactly. Wandering around, camera in hand, and bam! He sees this kadai runset display. And he mentions that for a lot of people, especially those who grew up in a kampung, the Malay word for village, this isn't just cute decor.
Yeah.
It's a visceral, emotional trigger. It reminds them of a childhood that looks absolutely nothing like the reality for kids today.
It's the irony, isn't it? You have these urban families walking past. The parents might look at it and feel that little pang of, oh, I remember that. I remember buying candy from a jar like that. But for their kids, it's just a prop. It's like a museum exhibit of a life they can't even comprehend. It's like seeing a dinosaur skeleton.
Precisely. It's static. It's performative. And that contrast is where the author starts his whole analysis. He splits the world into two very distinct childhood realities.
And I think we need to take them apart to really get what we've gained and, maybe more importantly, what we've lost. Let's start with the one most of us are probably living, the urban reality.
The gated childhood.
The gated childhood.
The author points out the physical environment first. In the city, kids are mostly raised in high-rise condos or gated communities. It's vertical living.
Which sounds safe, right, on paper. It's secure, it's guarded, you've got the access cards, the CCTV. But he points out a huge social consequence of that architecture. He says that urban kids often don't even know their next-door neighbors.
That is such a critical observation. I mean, think about the structure of that life. You get in a car, drive into a basement, take an elevator up to your apartment, you close the door. The physical proximity is incredibly high. You're stacked on top of people like servers in a rack.
Yeah.
But the social distance is just massive.
It's a paradox. You are surrounded by thousands of people, yet you're completely isolated. The elevator ride is the perfect example. It's the most awkward 30 seconds of modern life. Everyone just staring at the floor numbers, avoiding eye contact.
Praying the door opens fast.
Yes. And if that's how the adults behave, what are the kids learning?
They're learning that neighbors are strangers, people to be ignored, not, a support system. They learn that safe just means walled off. So if they're not hanging out with the neighbor's kids, who are they with?
Well, according to the source, their social circle it's artificially constructed, it's curated, it's basically just schoolmates, and, this is the key part, peers from what the author calls enrichment classes.
Okay, we have to pause here because this is one of the most insightful bits of the whole article. The author makes a really sharp distinction between tuition and enrichment.
I hadn't really thought about it this way before, but he frames them as two totally different eras of parenting. It's almost like a rebranding of childhood labor.
It's a subtle but really powerful shift in the language. He notes that he only recently learned enrichment is the new term.
Yeah.
Historically, we had tuition. And tuition, it has a negative vibe.
Yeah, it's remedial.
It's about fixing a deficit. You go to tuition because your grades aren't good enough, you're filling a hole.
Right. You got a C in math, go to tuition. It's almost a punishment. It implies something's broken.
Exactly. But enrichment, that sounds so positive. It sounds like a vitamin shot. It's value add. He defines enrichment as focusing on personal interest, mastery, excellence. It's not about fixing a problem. It's about optimizing the child.
It's treating your kid like a product that needs feature upgrades. Let's install the Mandarin module. Now let's add the coding plugin. Oh, the ballet driver needs an update.
It sounds cynical when you put it that way,
Yeah.
but that is the functional result. And it creates intense pressure. The source explicitly says urban children face intense pressure to excel. Their daily schedules are just packed. School ends, then it's piano, then coding, ballet, mental arithmetic. Every single hour is accounted for.
The hyper-scheduling of childhood, the enrichment trap. Because if you don't do it, you feel like your kid is falling behind the other kids in the condo who are doing it. It's an arms race. And the kid is just the soldier on the front line.
And the cost isn't just financial, though it is expensive. It's time and it's culture. The author points out a huge downside to this cosmopolitan upbringing. Sure, they're exposed to diverse cultures. They speak English, they speak Manglish.
And for our listeners, Manglish is that unique, colloquial Malaysian English. It's this super efficient blend of English, Malay, Chinese, and Tamil. It's a cultural marker itself.
Right, it's a localized cosmopolitanism.
Yeah.
But while they have this broad, globalized view, the author argues they are disconnected from their actual roots.
That's the trade-off. He observes that these kids might only practice traditional customs during festivals, like the Chinese New Year decorations we started with. It becomes a performance, not a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And a really sad point he makes, they rarely speak their native dialects anymore.
He mentions most of his peers' children can't speak the dialect, especially those who've lived abroad or are deep in the international school system. It's like, in gaining the world, they lost the village language. They might be learning Mandarin as a global language, but the dialect of their own grandparents is just vanishing.
It reminds me of that saying, culture is what you do when no one is looking. If you only do it when the lanterns are up in the mall, is it really your culture, or is it just a costume you put on once a year?
That cuts deep. And that brings us perfectly to the other side of this divide, the rural OS, the village childhood.
This part of the article, it just felt like a breath of fresh air reading it. Even the description of the kampung lifestyle felt slower. The author paints a picture that is almost the exact inverse of the condo life.
It operates on a completely different set of social rules. And the defining characteristic here, according to him, is deep communal trust.
He says the community actually raises the child, not in that metaphorical, it takes a village way we put on bumper stickers but then ignore.
No, literally.
Really.
And the metric for that is safety and recognition. In the village, everyone knows exactly who belongs to whom. And because that knowledge, that social data is shared by everyone, the children have freedom.
That's a fascinating concept. Who belongs to whom? It's an identity system. In the city, you're identified by your key card or your apartment number. In the village, you are identified by your relationships. Oh, that's Meng's grandson.
Exactly. And that recognition is like a security clearance. It allows for what the author calls freedom of movement. He talks about kids just roaming freely between houses. Compare that to the urban kid who needs a key card just to get into the elevator.
And an adult chaperone across the street. It changes the whole pace of life. The author notes a visible disparity. Rural kids are more relaxed. They aren't rushing from coding to piano. They're just being.
But, and he's very careful here, he doesn't want to over-romanticize it. He's not saying rural parents don't care about school.
Right, he debunks that myth that rural means lazy or unambitious.
Correct. He says for the parents who care, academic success is still a priority. But there's a distinct lack of that rigid scheduling outside of school. When school is out, the time belongs to the child. It belongs to the community. It's not chopped up into 45-minute enrichment blocks.
It's organic enrichment. You learn social skills by navigating a pack of neighborhood kids, not by taking a leadership for toddlers class.
And because they're immersed in that community, they keep their roots. They speak the dialects. They understand the customs as daily life, not just a holiday performance. They absorb it.
So if we look at the balance sheet he draws up, it's just a series of trade-offs. The urban kid gets diverse opportunities and global connectivity, but is deprived of nature and tradition.
And the rural kid gets a rich experience with nature, tradition, and community trust, but historically lacks those diverse opportunities.
Yeah.
It feels like an impossible choice, doesn't it? You either get the roots or you get the wings.
And the author sees urban parents trying to hack the system, the ones probably feeling guilty about the gated childhood. They're trying to simulate the roots.
The artificial bridge, as he calls it. He mentions seeing urban parents taking their kids on trips to rural settings just to expose them to a different way of life.
It's basically kampung tourism.
Exactly. Look, kids, this is mud. This is a chicken that isn't wrapped in plastic at the supermarket. Don't touch it.
It's a petting zoo version of a lifestyle. It's like people going camping to get back to nature, but bringing a generator and an espresso machine?
It's an attempt to manufacture the experience. But, like we said with the mall display, seeing a replica isn't the same as living it. A weekend trip to a village doesn't instill deep communal trust.
You can't import neighbors who care about you on a weekend visa.
You can't. And the author being that software plumber, he looks at the infrastructure. He brings up the internet. He says the digital divide has been bridged. The rural kid has the internet now.
Yeah, information access is becoming equalized. A kid in a kampung can watch the same YouTube tutorials, access the same educational content as a kid in a condo.
The library is in everyone's pocket now, no matter the zip code.
But he's very careful to point out that while the digital divide is closing, a huge economic divide is still there.
Right. Just because you have high-speed Wi-Fi in the village doesn't mean you have high-paying jobs next door. The economic engine is still in the city. The big corporations, the banks, the tech hubs, they're in those concrete boxes.
Recently, they have been.
Up until now.
And this is where we get to the future. This is where we pivot from observation to speculation. Because he doesn't just leave us with this sad roots versus wings comparison. He wonders if the whole board is about to flip.
This is the exciting part.
It is. He looks at the catalyst, technology, specifically AI and the rise of remote working culture.
We've been hearing about this for years. Work from anywhere, but he's tying it directly to real estate and raising kids. He says he's seeing new housing neighborhoods starting to shift out of the city center.
It raises a pretty fascinating question. If you don't need to commute to the concrete box to work, do you need to live in the concrete box? If the office is in the cloud, why is your home next to the physical building? That is the multi-million-dollar question, the author asks. Is the urban neighborhood even the ideal choice for housing anymore? Or is it time to look back toward the village?
Think about what that means. Why do we put up with the traffic, the pollution, the tiny apartments, the lack of community in the city?
For access.
For access. Access to jobs, access to networks. We pay a kind of misery tax for opportunity.
But if AI and remote work distribute that access everywhere,
then the kampung suddenly becomes very, very attractive. You get the nature, you get the community trust, you get the relaxed pace for your kids, and you still keep the high-paying job. You stop paying the misery tax.
you break the trade-off. You can have the roots and the wings.
In theory, yes. The whole enrichment trap might just dissolve. If you aren't fighting for a spot in a top-tier city school because education is decentralized, maybe you don't need the packed schedule.
But is that realistic? Or are we just romanticizing the Kidaya runs it again? I mean, he does acknowledge the economic reality is still there.
It's there today, but that's the tension. If high-income earners, the software plumbers, like the author, the knowledge workers, if they move back to rural areas, they bring that economy with them. They bring spending power. They bring demand for services.
That's a powerful idea. A revitalization of the village, powered by fiber optics.
It can revitalize it.
Yeah.
Or, and we have to consider this, it could just gentrify it.
Right. Turn it into another gated community, just with more trees, driving up prices so the locals can't afford to live there anymore. The $5 latte effect.
It's a very real possibility. But the core desire he's tapping into, that longing for a community where everyone knows who belongs to whom, that is something money can't buy in a city.
Yeah.
You can pay for enrichment classes, you can pay for a safe condo, but you cannot pay your neighbors to genuinely care about your kid. That has to be organic.
That distinction really hits home. Enrichment is something you buy. Community is something you build.
Exactly. And you build it with time and presence. You can't do that if you're stuck in traffic for 2 hours a day. You have to be there.
The author's photos, especially that fake store in the mall, it captures that longing perfectly. We build shrines to a way of life we destroyed, while wondering if we can use our new tools to rebuild the real thing.
It's heavy stuff for a photo walk blog post. But that's why we loved this source. It takes a simple walk, a change of plans, and turns it into a mirror for society.
And it forces you to look at your own schedule. If you're an urban listener, look at your calendar right now. Look at your kid's calendar. Is it full of enrichment? And if it is, what is that enrichment actually replacing?
Is it replacing boredom? Is it replacing free play? Is it replacing just connection? Because sometimes the most enriching thing a child can do is roam.
So let's recap the core tension here before we wrap. On one side, the urban reality. Safe, gated, opportunity-rich, but socially isolated and high pressure.
And on the other, the rural reality. Community-raised, free roaming, culturally rooted, but historically lacking in economic opportunity.
The author suggests that Kate Runsa in the mall is a sign that we miss the village, we miss the connection, and that AI and remote work might be the key to actually going back.
Not just visiting on a weekend, but living it. Merging digital opportunity with a communal safety net.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. We always think the future looked like a sci-fi movie, flying cars, chrome skyscrapers. But what if the future of innovation isn't in a tech park?
Right. If the internet and AI level the playing field, the most valuable asset becomes the one thing you can't download, a functioning, high-trust community.
So maybe the next Silicon Valley isn't a valley at all.
Maybe it's a kampung.
It's entirely possible.
We might find that the most advanced way to live in 2036 looks a lot like the way we lived in 1996, just with better Wi-Fi.
I love that. The future's just the past with better internet.
And hopefully, better coffee. We can't go back to instant coffee. That's where I draw the line.
Definitely better coffee. Non-negotiable. That's all for this deep dive into Aang's notes on photography. We hope this makes you look at those New Year decorations a little differently next time.
Maybe say hello to your neighbor in the elevator. It's scary, I know, but give it a shot.
Break the silence. Absolutely. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.